Hello, everyone. We are back. As you all know by now, the Rugby World Cup is finally upon us. And yes, Canada may not be taking part this time round, but we are going to be watching all the games that are available on TSN, the TSN app, or TSN Plus. Make sure you check the listings to know which ones are available and which channels they are on. But more importantly, for us at least, we have our predictions going in. We have a smorgasbord of games coming this weekend. And starting off with the big one, France versus New Zealand. We also have another Pool A game, which is Italy versus Namibia. Then we go down the rest of the pools. Ireland versus Romania in Pool B. Australia versus Georgia in Pool C. England take on Argentina in Pool D, whilst Japan play Chile. South Africa will play host to Scotland before the weekend closes out with Wales versus Fiji. So we have 2 games from Pool A, 2 games from Pool B, 2 games from Pool C, and 2 games from Pool D, but not necessarily in that order. But we start off with the big one, France versus New Zealand in the opener of the World Cup. Now, interesting to know that the last time France hosted the World Cup, they actually lost their opening pool game. And New Zealand have yet to lose a pool game in the Men's Rugby World Cup pool stage. So, on paper, it should seem who's the obvious winner. However, New Zealand played South Africa a week or so ago, and that was a drubbing, to say the least. Now, that's not to say that France haven't lost any important games this year. I mean, they lost to Scotland recently, but that was a game which was more of a second string 15, more of testing the waters. And of course, they fell to Ireland as Ireland proceeded to secure the Grand Slam in the Six Nations earlier. But this is the big one. France versus New Zealand. The last time these two played, it was France who emerged victorious. Derek, who do you think is going to emerge the winner this time round?
Well, I think too, like the biggest story I think right now for France is Romain Nidamak being out for the tournament. So that has a really big impact. I guess, like, to be honest with you, it's like I know New Zealand got smacked by South Africa, but it's before the World Cup, so who cares? And I don't know. However, I think ultimately there is a little something, there's a little extra thing that comes with being the host nation. And I think I would be looking for, if I'm betting on this game, I think I'm looking for France to come out on top. So I think, they are the third ranked team in the world. They have taken a couple knocks, a couple injuries, but it's still like they've really been, I think they've really been growing over the past couple of years. Their last couple of Six Nations have been unreal. And they still got like Anton Dupont and a whole lot of weapons up front.
Yeah.
Right. So it's I think France, I think it's a pretty even game, but I'm gonna give the edge to France because it's on their own turf and it's the opener. Like, you can't lose this game.
Well, they said that in the 2007 Rugby World Cup, and look how that turned out. But
Yeah,
I will agree. France have been preparing for this basically since 2018 at the earliest. You could see it emerge in the 2019 Rugby World Cup. They were, dark horses coming through. Then they pushed Wales in the quarterfinals before Wales just edged out in that game. And they've just gone from strength to strength. And yes, you're right, Ntamak is not playing in this tournament, but Jalbert is right there, primed and ready to go. Jalbert's actually been taking on more of the kicking duties as fullback than Ntamak has. But it's the tragedy of full contact sport is that players from lots of teams have had to withdraw because of injury concerns and surgery being required. So but yeah, you're right. France are a much different beast than they were in 2007. New Zealand are also at their lowest ranking spot in their history at 4th, which is huge for them and unbelievable for a lot of other nations. I'm saying like, what, fourth is your worst
It's the
position?
worst you've ever been. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm actually going to agree with you. I think France are going to make a statement. They're going to buck history. They're going to give New Zealand their first loss in the pool stages. Now, I was going to say the first time they haven't won, but that's technically not true because their game against Italy was cancelled and therefore ended in a draw in the 2019 World Cup. So this would potentially be their first loss. But we move on to Saturday and the second of the Pool A games, Italy versus Namibia. Okay, now, if
Final thoughts here?
the projection had gone from what happened in 2015 with Namibia into 2019, I would have been hoping for, a bit more to be promising of. Now, I will be honest, my knowledge of African rugby is minimal at best. So, maybe I'm just talking out of my backside. Italy, they have been improving year on year, and they are a tier one nation. Namibia still in that tier two category. Yes, they have finally gotten their first ever win over Canada, which they did last year. But I think the momentum will still be with Italy. So I'm picking two Europeans back to back. So I'm going for Italy.
I mean, obviously, I think Italy is probably it's the choice here. Namibia's never won a World Cup game, despite being at quite a few of them. Which was obviously something that was a big storyline going into the last game of 2019 because it was going to be Canada versus Namibia, and and then the typhoon happened, so we never got to see that game. We did get to see it a couple of years later, I guess. You're saying you don't know much about African rugby in Namibia. A handful of MLR players on the squad, though. Wayne Conradi, Adrian Boyson, Damian Stevens is there. Cliven Laubser's there.
LaRue Milan.
LaRue Milan, yeah, the last try he scored won the Free Jacks the Shield, to paraphrase a tragically hip song, because I got to put some Canadian content into this
Fair,
video somehow.
very fair.
Yeah. I mean, Italy should win this game. They should. It'd be fun to see Namibia win. We need to get at least one epic upset every World Cup. Like, there's got to be one that happens. I don't necessarily think this is going to be it, but shout out to Namibia. They're actually a lot better on paper than I think people think they are. But I think we'll take Italy in this game still, which isn't really much of a stretch. I don't. It's a tough pool for Namibia, man, because they got New Zealand, France, Italy, Uruguay. So that's a tough draw for a country still looking for their first World Cup win.
Okay, move on to the next game. We're on to Pool B. It is Ireland versus Romania. Now, I am being very clear on this one. One team is ranked
Ireland.
world number one
Yeah.
in the world. They haven't lost a game all year, and the other team is Romania. So I am going full speed ahead with Ireland in this game.
Yeah, I think like Romania is obviously, I think, had a pretty rubbish build up to the World Cup too. They've been struggling in a lot of their games. I think they lost to a couple of teams that didn't even qualify for the World Cup, and as part of that.
They recently lost to the United States.
So. Yes, correct. Thank you. That was the team I'm thinking of. So yeah, it's obviously not great. Honestly, yes, I'm taking Ireland to win this game because obviously they should, and I'll probably take them to win a handful more throughout the rest of the World Cup. Ireland, to me, though, they're coming in, they're world number one. I don't care until, like, you got to get it done in the knockout stage.
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Like, they've been too good for too long to just be like, be bounced in every quarterfinal. And I think with the team that they're bringing to this tournament, it's like, you got it. Like, they need to run through their table in the pool stage, and then, like, you have to get it done in the knockout stage. No matter what Ireland does in the pool stage, doesn't matter. They have to get it done when it counts in the knockout stage. So, but they should cruise past Romania.
Well, you say that about quarterfinals. wherever they finish, they'll be playing against opposition from Pool A. So on paper, it looks like Ireland will be facing either France or New Zealand in that quarterfinal. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
They're the
So,
number one ranked team in the world. They shouldn't be afraid of any of those teams.
Yeah, they
Get it
have got
done.
wins against both those teams in the
Yeah.
past 12 months. So,
Get it?
yeah,
If you lose to the All Blacks in the quarterfinals, you know what that just makes you? That makes you still have the same number of quarterfinal wins at the World Cup as Canada, which is a very, very low number. So
yes. So we move on to probably now. This is going to be the first, I'd say. No, I'd say second interesting game. France New Zealand is obviously going to be one to watch. This is Australia versus Georgia. True, but Australia versus Georgia. Now, Australia have been going through a bit of a rigmarole. You know, they've got Eddie Jones as their head coach and have yet to win a game under his leadership, which is one thing. But they are up against Georgia, who are, you know, dominant in the Rugby Europe Championship. Managed to get wins against Wales last autumn, and you know have been doing pretty decent in the build-up. They lost to Italy, though, so you know a bit of a dampener in the sails. But you know, obviously, it doesn't matter until it gets to the World Cup. So I am going to be controversial here, or not, depending on how you view all this. I'm going to pick Georgia to beat Australia.
I actually really like that pick. You know, it seems like one of those games where it's like if you're going to pick an upset in the over the first week of MLR, I think this is one of two games you're probably really looking at, and I think so, and I think that could work for you. I still think like I mean I know Australia struggled and like I said, I think this might be one of the games where it's like the upset's most likely to happen, but I still think I would back us. I'm still going to back Australia in this one. I think I might have my upset brewing a little bit later down the fixture list here.
Okay, we move on to Pool D, the first game of their pool, and it is the old rivalry, the Falkland rivalry, if you will, between England and Argentina. And you know,
England, I don't even know who's on England's roster right now between all the guys that are hurt and suspended. So
yeah, so Argentina, you know, they've been doing, you know, very well. They've you know, obviously got their wins in the rugby championship. They had a few wins during the autumn as well. But again, I think it's going to be and you know, I think England's in the same position of Australia, but they do have a few more wins under their belt. But they have had, as is obvious, ill discipline creeping into the side. So, yeah, I don't know who's in the starting lineup, but I definitely know Owen Farrell won't be playing a part. But I am going to pick England on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with England too. They got too many Saracens for me to cheer against them. So
fair enough. Now we have our first debutant at this World Cup as Chile will take on Japan. And now this is something interesting because with the men's rankings in World Rugby, you know, they have this complex system of like how many points a team can get, how many points they need to score in the game and to see how far they'll go up, blah, 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 blah. Maths. But this is the interesting thing. So at the moment, Chile are 60. They are 60.49. Canada is 60.46. So Chile are just above ranked 22nd in the world to Canada's 23rd. And so above Canada are Chile, Namibia, Spain, and Romania. Spain obviously not playing in this World Cup, but Romania, Namibia, and Chile are. Now, during the World Cup, world ranking points are doubled, which means that if you win games, you go, you know, higher than you normally would. But if you lose games, you also fall further than you normally would. This is why a team that will finish, you know, in say lose the bronze final means that they will have lost 2 games in succession, and they can finish as low as 8th in the world rankings. So by Canada not playing in this World Cup and Namibia and Chile, as well as Romania, all playing in this World Cup, Canada could rise to as high as 20th in the world rankings just by not playing and by these other teams losing.
Does that make you feel better about Canada not being in the World Cup?
No,
No,
but
exactly. And then what does it matter?
silver linings all
There's no
round.
silver lining here. No, no. I would rather drop to 30th in the world rankings and be in the World Cup than not be in the World Cup.
Hey, I can't control everything, all right. But Japan versus Chile. Japan, who finished top of their pool in the last World Cup. Yeah, they've been going through a few changes as well. Then maybe not as super dominant as they were when they hosted it. But, they have actually been in the World Cup. They've qualified automatically for the last two World Cups. And not just because they hosted in 2019. They actually finished third in their pool in the 2015 World Cup. So they would have qualified automatically there. So I am sticking with Nippon. I am going with the Blossoms of Japan.
Yeah, I mean, like Japan, realistically, Japan is going to win this game. Chile's probably going to have a tough World Cup, being that it is their first one. I think Chile, though, is in a position to basically become everybody's second favorite team. If you've never watched Chile before, they have a really good set piece, and their backs are incredibly dynamic, especially Fernandez, the fly half. He scored a couple unreal tries that we unfortunately Canada was on the wrong end of. He's always super incredibly dynamic player, and I don't know. I mean, I know that we know how good Chile is because we were on the wrong end of that. I'm not sure how much the rest of the world really recognizes how good Chile can be, and I'm not saying that they're going to cause some upsets or anything in their pool, but I think I'm looking forward to Chile giving a couple teams like a good run, and I think they have that we can be everybody's second favorite team kind of vibes to them.
Yeah.
The World Cup is their debut.
Yeah, I think they will do well. I think they may even be able to scrounge some bonus points, but I mean, just because it's their first time here, I don't see them doing great. And if we have a look at Chile's pool and who their opponents will be, we got Samoa, Argentina, Japan, England, and I mean Argentina, not Argentina 15, Argentina. This is going to be tough for them, but I'm definitely excited to see them play. Okay, we move on to South Africa versus Scotland. Now, this is another game which I think will be closer than ranking points determine. Scotland able to get a couple victories in the Six Nations and also pull off a win against France and run France very close in the return fixture in the World Cup warm-up games. South Africa, they've, obviously had that big win over New Zealand to really get the momentum in their sails. So I think this will be a really close game. But I am going to pick Scotland. I think Scotland have a lot of fight in them, and I think it's just going to be a really encouraging game. And if
no. No, I think you take our joke about the team with the most Canadians will win a little too seriously. Shout out to Ewan Ashman on Scotland, who was born in Toronto, and I think he moved to Scotland when he was like 4 or 5 years old, but we'll still count it.
Yep.
The Springboks. You watched what they did to the All Blacks, right? Like,
oh yeah.
A couple, yeah, no, they're the defending champs too. Like that's,
yeah. I think
you're the World Cup champs until someone takes it from you. I don't think Scotland's going to take it from them.
That's the thing. My brain is saying South Africa, but my heart is saying Scotland because, just give Finn Russell a space and lack of all comprehension, and somehow a try is scored. Okay. I can't explain it until you see it.
But can you hang with the 7-1 split on the bench though?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know the squads going in. If they put a 7-1 in, then this is completely blown.
They should do it. They should put an 8-0 split. Just bring on a whole new pack. Just do it.
Just have some back row players who are also can run very quickly if needs.
South Africa, they shouldn't just bench all the backs, 23 forwards.
All right, so you're going with South Africa?
Yeah, I'm going with South Africa.
All right. And we have the final game of the round is Wales versus Fiji. You know, Wales,
Watch you cry, Stu.
yeah, Wales have not been great recently. Obviously, the temperature of Wayne Pivac has come to a premature end with Warren Gatland returning to take the reins. Uh, that's not even getting into the shambles of the organization that is the Welsh Rugby Union. Fiji have also been performing strength to strength and picking up a couple of wins recently. As a Welshman, I will be backing Wales all the way, but definitely a close game to watch. After
Yeah.
all, last time Wales played Fiji in France, we all know the result of that game. So it'd be interesting to see how this all unfolds. But
You know, it's
definitely one to
funny.
watch.
It's funny because earlier in this video, I mentioned that when we were talking about Australia, Georgia, that I was like, I think my upset I'm going to pick later. And now that I'm looking at this, because I was like, I'm totally picking Fiji in this game. But now that I'm
Yeah.
looking at it, I'm like, Fiji's ranked 7th and Wales is ranked 10th. So I guess it's not an upset. Because Fiji's actually the higher ranked team in this game. So it's not an
Yeah.
upset, but I'm still taking Fiji. Um, damn. That's
Yeah.
must be fun to be a Canadian Welsh fan.
Supporting teams
Living
in
the
red.
dream. Yeah, you're living
It's
the dream at this World
abs-
Cup, man.
absolutely. So those are our predictions for the opening weekend of the Men's Rugby World Cup in France. As I said before, all the games are available on TSN or TSN Plus. Make sure you check the listings to find out which channels are on and when. But those are our predictions, and keep watching the games. We'll be talking about them as we continue our podcast. Thank you for joining us for this little video of World Cup predictions. We hope you can join us again next time.